Coming up, the pandemic has essentially grounded the nation's airlines and airports, including North America's best, Indianapolis International. The Federal Aviation Administration is sending money to help. In our top story, Indy Airport Executive Director Mario Rodriguez on what's next for the airline industry and your travel plans. And they call themselves the Mask Mamas. They're in Greencastle, Putnam County. They started in a basement. Now they're turning out safety masks to as far away as Alaska. You'll meet them and learn more about what's behind their mission. And Indiana's tech economy ended 2019 with one of the best years for venture capital ever. How did the first quarter of 2020 look? TechPoint CEO Mike Langelier shares the numbers and looks at the impact the coronavirus could have going forward. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. The coronavirus pandemic has grounded thousands of flights around the world, turned airports into virtual ghost towns. Indianapolis International Airport remains open for essential travel. And this week, news that the Federal Aviation Administration is sending nearly $100 million in relief to Indy International and more than 60 other Hoosier airports around the state. Pleased to welcome to the show, as always, Indianapolis Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez via Skype with more. And Mario, is always great to see you.
Gary, great talking to you. I wish it were under better circumstances. Yeah. It's always great to talk to you.
I agree. Mario, I mentioned that the airport, year after year, North America's best, a vibrant hub, a great front door for the state of Indiana. Much different picture out there, much different vibe now, right?
Well, an incredibly different vibe. We believe that this event, COVID-19, is transformational for our entire industry. And you could see the transformation starting right now. We only have about 4.5% of our passengers going through the terminal. So in other words, it seems like a ghost town. Mm-hmm. And as we transition into what our new reality is going to be, we've been planning, we've been preparing, and we've been seeing different things that are occurring in the industry or should occur in the industry. Yeah. And we're actually getting ready for it. These federal dollars that are coming in are going to be very helpful, but I don't want anybody to get the impression that it's a windfall. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of money to operate this airport. There's a lot of fixed costs, including debt for this terminal that I'm sitting in. And the $52 million that's coming in here will be paying for those operating costs that are very much fixed, that are not dependent on tax dollars. We generate our own dollars through fees for airlines, fees for concessionaires, the parking, and everything else, which those revenues are non-existent right now. Yeah. But we've been very prudent, and we've planned very well, and we believe we're on solid footing. But we don't know the future. Nobody does.
And that's my question. I know you can't predict with certainty, but as you look coming out of this post-pandemic, first of all, the airlines, obviously they're taking a major, major hit here. What can travelers, what can the public expect from an airline perspective coming out of this?
From an airline perspective, they could probably expect much less capacity in the system. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of aircraft on the ground. There's a lot of the crews that are furloughed. So it'll take time for that to catch up with the necessity. So in other words, the necessity of the demand all of a sudden comes back, which may not be really realistic. The capacity will not be there. So the airlines will take time to spool up, just like everybody else will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Will, because most of their aircraft are spread all over the United States, are on the ground, spread all over the United States. Some of their crews are already furloughed or will be furloughed, and that'll take time to bring that capacity back up.
Indianapolis International has continued to get kudos from around the globe for how it operates and a number of other things. What's going to be key in your view, Mario, for the airport, the facility there, for operation of the airport? What's going to be key coming out of this from a competitive standpoint?
Well, the same thing that was key before. We're going to make sure we maintain a high level of public value. And, our question zero is that we serve all of you. We're your airport. We're here to serve you. So we want to make sure we serve you in the best way. We want to make sure that you as a traveling customer are well served, are safe, feel safe, that the accommodations are correct, and that'll take some time to work out. Yep. We've implemented a lot of sanitation, a lot more so than we did before, and we were the #1 airport in the United States, and we continue to do that, and we're trying to think of what the future travel experience will be and what you will need.
All right, looking also at the flip side, we're talking consumers, travel. How about FedEx? Obviously a major hub located right near the airport there and on property. FedEx, have they been actually seeing an increase? How are they doing?
FedEx is in good shape. While their ground has increased, we understand their air has decreased a little bit, okay. Not much. But of all the winners in this really, really, really horrible tragedy, that sort of on-demand delivery system is probably one of the winners in this whole thing. FedEx, UPS, DHL, and airlines like that move packages in a very rapid way.
Yep. As you look, Mario, as we wind up here, getting back to some sense of normalcy, as we were talking before the interview here, Indianapolis and Indiana, so much dependent on the tourism business, on major sporting events and those types of things, all impacted dramatically. So I guess how you come out of this will be dependent on how Indiana comes back and how these events and other things really roll out over time.
Oh, absolutely. We have of everywhere that I've lived, excuse me, of everywhere that I've lived, Indiana is the state that has the highest level of leadership. Mm-hmm. Starting out with Mayor Joe Hogsett, Governor Holcomb, our board. We have incredible leaders, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to come out of this in a changed way, but in a good way. Yep. Sports will be affected, tourism will be affected, the hospitality industry will be affected, but it's not change. It's how we deal with change. We came into this with what we had, not necessarily what we needed, but we're modifying what we have to actually encompass what we need.
Mario Rodriguez, as always, great to see you. Again, sorry under these circumstances, but continued good luck to you and stay safe.
Thank you very much. You have a nice day.
All right. Well, this week in Kokomo, workers at a General Motors company facility, a manufacturing facility, began producing ventilators that will be used in the fight against COVID-19. Now, the automaker is working with Washington-based Ventec Life Systems to produce ventilators for critical care patients. It was quite a feat, transforming an auto components plant into a ventilator production facility in less than 2 weeks. Amazing. The companies say they have reached an agreement with the federal government to supply some 30,000 ventilators by the end of August. The production workforce includes current and former GM workers from Kokomo and other Indiana communities. Coming up next, from Lake Michigan to the Ohio River, businesses all over Indiana, companies like Berry Global in Evansville, they've shifted production to deliver critical supplies to help fight the coronavirus. We'll have more on Indiana's response in our Business Spotlight. And the crisis has changed the way we live, work, and do business. Throughout the show, we'll be sharing COVID-19 resources like this one from the Indiana Chamber. For the complete list, go to our website, InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Well, in the Business Spotlight this week, we shine a light on Hoosier businesses stepping up in the fight against COVID-19. Companies of all sizes and from every corner of the state answering the call in a big way. This week, Indiana Secretary of Commerce Jim Schellinger announced The state had secured commitments for more than 2.6 million pieces of personal protective equipment, or PPE. That number is growing. The majority made by 15 Indiana manufacturers representing everything from autos to RVs to caskets. More than 400,000 of the items were donated by Hoosier companies. Now, the products are being distributed to Indiana hospitals, healthcare facilities, and first responders. I had the opportunity this week to connect with the state's Chief Information Officer, David Roberts, who is on the IEDC's procurement team via Zoom from his office in the state's Nerve Center.
We've seen really amazing response from Hoosiers throughout the state. Businesses have pivoted and transitioned a lot of their capacity into producing whatever they can. In this short amount of time, we've seen especially face shields and gowns. We've seen folks with mask making capability step forward, but we're buying whatever we can get on hand. We've seen a ton of companies like Toyota and FCA donating PPE. I think all told, we've purchased a little over 1.9 million pieces of PPE. And then with donations, we're up around 2.4, 2.5 million. But we've dipped down into those strategic reserves, so we're gonna stay on that job for a while now.
Well, Indiana companies are also looking beyond the crisis. BioCrossroads is the organization that represents Indiana's vibrant life sciences sector, which has an estimated $80 billion impact on the state's economy. CEO Patty Martin tells me she believes the crisis is showcasing the state's considerable life sciences firepower to the world.
What we're hoping is that as we move out of this crisis, we come out even stronger as a sector, because working together, whether it be universities with hospitals or hospitals with corporations, corporations with our universities, and surrounding that, all of our spectacular philanthropic support, we really think that we have the opportunity for the sector to come out stronger and demonstrate its importance to the vitality of the state of Indiana.
Now, both the David Roberts and Patty Martin interviews are from our Ag plus Bio plus Science podcast. It's a partnership between Inside Indiana Business and AgriNovus Indiana. Very popular, and you can connect with these podcasts at bit.ly/AgBioSciPod. You can also check it out in the App Store as well. Well, coming up next, the numbers are in from TechPoint's first quarter venture capital report. We will talk with TechPoint CEO Mike Langelier about how the pandemic is affecting investment now, and importantly, how things could play out down the road. Stay with us. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, venture capital investment in Indiana tech companies increased by triple digits in 2019, a record year for the state. TechPoint, the state's technology initiative, says first quarter of 2020 results modest, but a promising start to the year. Then came COVID-19. Pleased to welcome back to the show, as always, TechPoint CEO Mike Langelier, who has a look now at the numbers and how the pandemic really could impact the investment landscape in Indiana going forward. Mike, it's always good to see you.
Thanks, Gary. It's great to see you, too.
All right, let's touch briefly, because these numbers in the first quarter don't reflect the pandemic, but coming out of 2019 and into this year, 2019 was a really good year, momentum coming in. What do we see in the first quarter of this year?
Yeah, as you said, 2019 was a very strong year. 2020, we came out into 2020 in Q1 with a modest start, a respectable start, not as strong as last year. But as you said, things change really rapidly at the end of Q1.
Well, let's talk about that to the extent that you can kind of characterize the impact. First of all, on the VC communities, what are the funders and the folks with the money? What's been their initial response or reaction? How are they impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, I think as so many of us have, for the most part, investors went into assess and try to figure out what is going on and what the true impact is. If you think about these venture capital firms, they've raised portfolios to invest from other investors, and so they have a fund to invest, and they're making decisions about where to invest those dollars. I think one of their first reactions was many of them pulled back on prospecting activities and new investment activities to really focus on their current portfolio of investments and to understand what situation are they in, how exposed are the industries that they're selling into, as a result, and for many of them, they're trying to determine how much potentially more investment could their current portfolio need. What venture capital firms do when they make an investment into a company, they reserve money back in that fund that they can invest in subsequent rounds of investment. And so as economic impacts like this happen, they oftentimes will have to make a decision to allocate more money for further investment, knowing that they have current companies in their portfolio that might need additional investment to weather this kind of a storm. So I think we saw, just over the course of the past month or so, we saw a couple different investments. Lessonly raised $15 million, was the largest of those. But I think we have to take into account the fact that those investments were already in the pipeline. They were already in the works, and so it was really a consummation of a deal that was already in process. We won't really feel and be able to measure the impact of COVID-19 on venture capital investment for another quarter or two to truly see what the impact is on current prospective investment activity.
Yeah, I think everyone or many right now, Mike, are looking ahead to post-pandemic. What is it going to be like? As you look at the tech landscape in Indiana, the startup community, how do you assess the impact on companies? Are there going to be certain companies in certain sectors, obviously, that are going to be impacted more than others?
Yeah, I think there are a couple main components to it. One of them is, if you look at it just from a business continuity standpoint, all of us adjusting to working from home as I am today, I think fortunately for many tech companies, that remote work business operation was something that was already fairly familiar territory. And so making that adjustment was less disruptive than it was for a lot of other industries. The biggest impact, though, is going to be felt is going to be dependent on what industry, what customer base those companies sell into. So there are some companies in our ecosystem that sell, for example, into the travel industry or sell into the event industry or hospitality industry. Those events are getting hit really, really hard right now. And as a result, they are getting hit very hard too. There are others that we hope will see, but healthcare, for example, or remote work, enabling technologies, those ones stand to do well, or maybe even logistics technologies stand to do well in an environment like this. Again, it's early to tell, and there's a difference between busyness and activity and ultimately profitability and financial success. But I think that that's the way it's largely going to fall. All
right. Great perspective, as always. Mike Langelier, the CEO of TechPoint. Mike, thanks for the great work you do around the state of Indiana. I know we'll be talking a lot more over the course of this year. Stay safe.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, Indiana's big businesses aren't the only ones stepping up. Everyday Hoosiers are also mobilizing, some from their homes.
I keep thinking, how did this happen? How did we turn from making a few masks and now here we are really as a business?
The Mask Mamas of Greencastle. They started cranking out masks on the basement floor just a few weeks ago. Our Mary Rachel Redmond finds out why and how far they've come since in our Around Indiana report. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. In Greene County, a former coal mining site is being transformed into a farm-to-bottle craft distillery. Fishers-based Land Betterment Corporation says it will transform the idled Landry mine in Jasonville into coal craft spirits. The company, which is run by 2 Indiana University graduates, says when the project is complete, the distillery will create dozens of jobs, many of which will be filled by former coal miners. Land Betterment Executive Vice President Kirk Taylor tells us as part of the farm-to-bottle aspect of the distillery, the company will also be planting many of its ingredients, including rye, on site. In Northwest Indiana, Arcelormittal joining an ever-growing list of businesses announcing workforce reductions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The steelmaker says it's placing a total of nearly 100 employees from its East Chicago and Burns Harbor facilities on temporary unpaid furloughs. Arcelormittal says it expects the furloughs to last less than 6 months, but did not provide a more precise anticipated return date. And Evansville's Economic Improvement District has created a virtual tip jar to support service industry employees. The organization says the funds will help benefit employees who have been laid off, furloughed, or seen a reduction in work hours amid the pandemic. The organization is encouraging service industry employees to sign up on its website. Well, now on to Putnam County, where a group of women doing their part and more to fight the pandemic, one sewing machine at a time. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has more from Greencastle.
They call themselves the Masked Mamas.
Bert is with you. Yeah, I put them in the same.
A group of 4 moms who have been sewing into the wee hours of the morning to provide masks for Putnam County.
It actually came up from a friend of ours, Amy Clark, whose daughters are actually working on the front line. She asked if we would be interested in making some masks because there was some communication of some shortage of the materials and things like that. And so that's what kind of started it.
We posted it on Facebook because we're pretty proud of our little project. We were flooded with, can you make us masks? And of course, we felt we need to help them. It wasn't a question, are we going to keep, we have to keep sewing.
We started testing some things in the basement, coming up with some trials, and we were just going to make a few, we thought, to give to Amy and her daughters. And ever since then, it's kind of exploded.
And since starting this venture just 3 weeks ago in their basement, the Masked Mamas have filled nearly 5,000 orders for N95 style and protective masks, providing the protective wear for the entire Putnam County hospital staff and beyond.
We have made masks for every nursing home, all in-home health care, our local hospital, essential workers. We have pretty much took care of most of our community.
I think each and every one of us have a passion to help our community in any way. It kind of gives us a purpose, right? And I think it's a calling for each and every one of us. We're a small community, we're a tight-knit community. And with the group of women that are involved, it's anything and everything that we can do. We're not people that sit still. Quarantine has not been boring for us.
There's a lot of anxiety that comes with this, and I don't think everybody was prepared for it. And I feel like this has just, filled that void. I'm not scared anymore. I feel like I have some power over it, and I think that's giving all the other volunteers that purpose too, and they don't feel like they're contributing and they're not just sitting around being helpless.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
All right, a great story from Putnam County. Well, ahead in our next half hour, we'll take you to Hamilton County, where a Noblesville business is at the center of production of critically needed medical equipment for healthcare workers in all 50 states. Helmer Scientific CEO Bruce King will talk about keeping up with demand in the business of health with Kylie Valletta. That story and a lot more. Stay with us. Well, healthcare workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 battle are indeed heroes. But many Hoosiers are quietly supporting healthcare behind the scenes. Employees at Noblesville-based Helmer Scientific are working at a feverish pace to produce medical-grade refrigerators, now in higher demand than ever before. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta joins us now with more. Kylie.
That's right, Gary. The company says every hospital in the U.S. and Canada, well over 5,000, use some piece of Helmer Scientific equipment, all of which is manufactured at its facility in Noblesville. Chief Executive Officer Bruce King says the medical-grade refrigerators and freezers are saving lives the day they arrive to the customer. He joins me now via Skype to tell us how the company is keeping pace with emergency demand. Bruce, thanks for joining me today on the show.
Happy to be here, Kylie. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So we talked a little bit beforehand how Helmer is absolutely overflowing with emergency orders right now. Tell us what's in highest demand and how that equipment is being used in hospitals around the country right now.
Sure. Right now, recent waves, the first month or so of this crisis have been mostly associated with hospital systems trying to expand rapidly their capacity to handle this surge. And so we've gotten waves of orders, especially for our medication refrigerators. Those are standalone refrigerators, but also a system that we have that integrates with BD Pyxis machines, which is a medication management system. So it's sort of a high-tech system that stores ambient and refrigerated now medications. But our refrigerators have mostly been used during this wave for customers we got a wave from Italy and then Seattle, New York City, and yes, central Indiana. And now states like Alabama are responding to increase their demand for these products. How they're using them is mostly some very temperature-sensitive medications, some medications they use to intubate patients to put on ventilators require this specialized equipment, and some antivirals. And now there's therapies emerging that may need some of our equipment as well.
All right, we're going to talk about some of those therapies shortly. About 340 employees there at your Noblesville facility, and really seem to me to be unsung heroes right now, really supporting healthcare workers on the front lines. Share your feelings just about how your employees are dealing with this crisis and how your company is responding.
Well, you said it. We support heroes. Our customers are frontline health workers right now, and all the people that support them in health systems and places like health departments, like the Indiana Health Department. And really their mission is our mission, so their pressure is our pressure too right now. And so we didn't have a option to shut down or anything like that. We have to keep going. So to try and keep all these, I've been thrilled with the work we've been able to do, and I'm so proud of our team for responding the way we have. Frankly, the people doing work like this, and especially healthcare workers on the front line, those are the heroes. Not grandstanding politicians or blame-storming politicians or even well-intentioned CEOs like me. I'm really glad you're letting me recognize our team and health workers on this. Thank you.
Sure, and you mentioned your office staff is now working from home, but your production line obviously can't work from home. So at the same time that you're being met with this huge increase in demand, you had to completely retool your production line. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's been nerve-wracking to say the least. To have to respond to a wave of demand like this, all while having to unprecedented ways that we have to work to keep people distanced and promote new levels of cleanliness. It's most of we followed the guidelines of the CDC and the health departments, but it's necessitated us to occasionally stop things. We shut our whole plant down for a period of time, very rapidly get all the engineers and all of us leaders in to help redesign the work so that it wasn't so hard to keep our assembly workers and our fabrication workers distant. And we added things like sneeze guards, that look like sneeze guards into our operation. And we'd love to gown them up and put them in N95 masks, but those are really at the front end of this crisis. We donated all those to health workers. So we really have to rely on distancing, and that's what we focused on.
I know you mentioned now your staff is a little bit short on those masks. Just a few seconds left, but tell us the role that Helmer is going to play in this moving forward, both the near term, but also some of these long-term solutions that are being looked at.
Yeah, after this wave that we talked about subsides, I think in the very near term, there's multiple therapies that are being tested now. And some of those might be injectables or other types of medications that'll need our refrigeration equipment. But others are likely have to do with plasma, blood plasma. And we're a blood banking company, equipment company too. So likely some of these convalescent serum therapies that have to do with blood plasma will utilize some of our freezers and refrigerators and blood plasma thawers. But further down the road, in 12 to 18 months, when we all hope one of the pathways for a vaccine comes through, then we're really going to have to step up, because back in 2009, when the H1N1 crisis hit, the needs for vaccine storage equipment and management equipment that we produce went up dramatically. And those units, that's been 11 years now. So I know that our health system customers are going to have to gear up to administer 300 million vaccines when that time comes, and we have to be ready to support them.
All right, Bruce, really critical work up there in Noblesville. A pat on your back to you and your company for all the hard work you're putting in. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. It's about the people doing the work, so thank you for letting me highlight them.
No problem. Back to you, Gary.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Great work from Helmer Scientific and Bruce King in Noblesville. Thanks very much, Kylie. Well, an Eli Lilly and Company drug used to treat patients with severe rheumatoid arthritis may soon become another weapon in the fight against the coronavirus. Lilly has entered into an agreement with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases to study baricitinib is a potential treatment for hospitalized patients diagnosed with COVID-19. Testing is set to begin this month in the U.S., with the results expected within the next 2 months. Lilly Biomedicine's President Patrick Johnson says, although there are no guarantees the drug will work, it is the company's duty to give it a shot.
And we're utilizing all our resources to do whatever we can. Of course, we can't promise. We can't promise that baricitinib is going to work, but I think we have an obligation. We have an obligation taking into account the suffering that individuals are having, families are having, and actually big communities and economies are facing. I think we all have an obligation to test whatever can be worth testing.
Now, for healthcare executives like Johnson, social distancing has a global impact. He served as president and general manager of Lilly Japan before recently taking over the company's biomedicines unit in Indianapolis. His family is still in Japan, which means he won't be able to be with his daughter when she graduates high school.
Most importantly right now is stay safe, be healthy. You know what, it's not ideal that I can't celebrate with you in person, but we will find a different way of celebrating the birth of the graduation. Maybe it's in November, I have no clue, huh? But my love is borderless, and I'm with you at least mentally. And I think that's how I think we will appreciate the smaller things in life much more than ever before.
That is a great attitude right there. Johnson went on to say he is amazed by all of the health initiatives that have emerged over the last several weeks, and says he's humbled and honored to work for Lilly to help find a treatment for COVID-19. Well, still ahead, the coronavirus has hit local community centers that serve the underprivileged really hard, places like Flanner House and La Plaza in Indianapolis. But Indiana's professional sports teams, they're in the game to assist. Leadership from the Indiana Pacers and Indianapolis Colts will join us next with details. And small businesses and organizations like the Fort Wayne Ballet are also feeling the pinch as they struggle to keep their doors open. Yelp's Brittany Smith joins us with 5 ways you can help Indiana's small business community through these uncertain times. Well, for one, it's the off season. For the other, it's a season suspended. But for both the NFL's Indianapolis Colts and the NBA Indiana Pacers, as well as their WNBA counterpart Indiana Fever, the pandemic has meant a season of marshaling and combining resources to lift community agencies. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill?
Gary, thanks. From Colts owner Jim Irsay's $1 million challenge gift to Gleaners Food Bank to the Colts, Pacers, and Fever all coming together to bring financial aid to area community centers, the city's big league franchises are doing what they can and using their profiles to stay in the game while they wait for the real games to begin. And joining me today to discuss their various initiatives are Colts Vice President of Communications Steve Campbell and Pacers Sports and Entertainment Vice President of External Affairs Danny Lopez. And gentlemen, welcome to the program. And Steve, we're going to start with you. Jim Irsay, in the very early days of this, really kickstarted things with that amazing $1 million challenge donation for Gleaners, which I think ended up being about $1.3 million. Talk about that a little bit, Steve.
Sure. You know, the mission of the Indianapolis Colts is to entertain, inspire, unite our fans and our community. And we're drawn to it even more in times like this. And so that's why Mr. Irsay pledged $1 million to Gleaners Food Bank. Gleaners does a fantastic job feeding people, our most vulnerable people, during ordinary times. But they've stepped up during this crisis, and we wanted to step up to help them. So Mr. Irsay challenged the community to raise $200,000. And if they did that, he would pledge $1 million to Gleaners to allow them to continue to feed the people who are being hit hardest by the pandemic. And so, you know, there are a lot of people stepping up. We're just humbled and honored to be a part of it. And as I said, it's part of our mission statement, not just to win football games on Sunday, but to help our community year round. Yeah,
and then both franchises came together to support the 12 area community centers. Again, they're doing an amazing job in providing services to the area youth. Danny, talk about that partnership, if you would.
Yeah, these community centers, I mean, if you have conversations with their staff, you know that by mid-morning they're wiped out and the lines are around the corner. I mean, it's just the reality that we're living in. And as Steve mentioned, you know, the spirit of giving back is central to what we do at Pacer Sports and Entertainment. And so the opportunity to partner with the Colts on something like this and help these organizations out was really a no-brainer for us and for our teams. I mean, the reality is that this is sort of uncommon. You don't see this in a lot of places, but to have an organization like the Colts and an organization like Pacer Sports and Entertainment, along with, as Steve mentioned, so many around not just the city, but the state come together for these kinds of efforts is really a special thing. And I think it's really emblematic of what Indiana and the city of Indianapolis really do well, which is throw their arms around each other and pick each other up.
Yeah, and another combined initiative, the governors in this together. And again, both franchises involved in that. Talk about that if you would, Steve.
Sure. In This Together is a statewide awareness campaign led by Governor Holcomb, Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett, Eli Lilly and Company, and a lot of other partners, including the Pacers, Pacers Sports and Entertainment, and the Indianapolis Colts. And this is essentially an opportunity for us to help Hoosiers understand the importance of social distancing, provide them helpful tips and information, and really get the community behind this, because it's going to take everyone in the community to flatten this curve. So this is an effort that we're proud to be a part of, because if we do everything that we're supposed to be doing now, when we come out of this on the other side, we'll be better and stronger for it.
Yeah, and Danny, as we wrap up, again, the Pacers have, you know, and both franchises have robust year-long community outreach programs. But Danny, I know the Pacers are working on invest, inform, and inspire, kind of three buckets.
Yeah, we really, you know, we've got a unique platform. This is Indiana. We are basketball. We go well beyond basketball, but it's basketball for Indiana. And so we've got this unique platform to make sure that we're making the right kinds of investments in community partners that are doing great work. We're using the tools that we have to make sure people know where to go to get the resources that they need on a continual basis. And then obviously just inspiring people, creating some hope and a little bit of distraction, particularly now in really tough times, so that people can get away. So whether it's dribbling drill or just fun things that Vic or other players are doing, it's just a way to give people a little bit of levity and distraction in these really tough times.
Well, Danny Lopez of Pacers Sports and Entertainment, Steve Campbell with the Colts, we wish you both the best going forward. We're looking forward to the NFL draft, and we're certainly highly in anticipation of both the start of the WNBA season and the continuation of the NBA season. Gentlemen, best of luck, and we'll talk to you soon. Gary, back to you.
Well, an eye-popping but not surprising survey of Indiana small businesses in March showed optimism tanked because of the coronavirus. The National Federation of Independent Businesses saw its largest monthly decline in the history of its optimism survey. Many small businesses across the state struggling to keep their doors open. But you can help. Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith joins us now via Skype with 5 ways to give Indiana's small business community a big boost. And Brittany, as always, welcome.
Great to be with you virtually, Gary.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about this. You've got 5 specific ways that we can all help these businesses who are really challenged right now. One is to connect with your favorite local business and discover new ones. A number of these businesses are doing new things, offering things virtually online, right?
Yes, this is definitely a time of innovation for local businesses. So many of them are now offering classes online and getting creative ways to connect with customers and new audiences. A great example of that is West Fork Whiskey, located in the Kennedy King neighborhood. They've actually came up with these beautiful quarantine mixer bottles where you can go pick up the items and then follow along on their Facebook for classes. The beautiful thing about West Fork is that their products are also sold throughout the entire state. So you can become your own bartender at home and then visit with them later down the road when they open back up. Another great example of that is the Fort Wayne Ballet. So many of our different arts organizations have had the tough decision to close up for the season, but they're now offering virtual ballet classes online to connect with their audiences and fans.
All right, you can also connect, this is an obvious one, with some of the 100,000 plus businesses that deliver, and you can do that, connect with that through the Yelp app.
Yeah, there's over 100,000 businesses that deliver through Yelp. But the beautiful thing is that it's everything from breakfast to now businesses are offering things like taco kits, donut kits for kids at home with your family. 2 great examples of that are Sushi Don, Revolution Barbecue, which actually just opened in March in Lafayette. So throughout the state, there are all these great businesses that you can be offering, getting delivery right to your home.
All right. Also, shop local, shop online, but shop local online, right?
Yes, yeah. And that's ranging from, retail businesses to so many people now working from home, making their own coffee at home. Luca B Coffee in Columbus, Indiana is a great example of that. You can use this as a way to try out new roasters throughout the state and have it delivered to your doorstep. Or if you want to do curbside, Luca B is doing a really fun Unicurb campaign where 2 to 3 p.m. every day, they have a unicorn that's handing off the coffee drinks that you've ordered. So another great example of businesses really trying to bring joy and innovate during this time.
Yeah, I know, Brittany, a lot of people are ordering groceries, grocery delivery, ordering that online. And I know you talk about a great way to support local businesses. Hey, you're doing the grocery delivery, but make a special focus on local products in that delivery.
Yeah, thinking a little bit harder about when, you're picking out your dairy items, your meat items, if you're able to try to support those local farmers and artisans. If you're at Wildwood Market, for example, getting carry out, they've got pots and pans, which has taken big pot pies. There's a lot of those businesses that you can find them on the shelves at big retailers, as well as through places like Green Bean Delivery. So just really making a conscious effort to try to support those farmers and artisans wherever you can.
Another important way, number 5 on the list here, support local businesses, and there are numerous ones, lifting up healthcare workers and first responders who are really responding in so many ways during the crisis.
Yeah, Tinker Coffee, located on 16th Street. They have done a beautiful job at rolling out some new products. A great example of this is like their spice latte, which is now in a bottle. They're also doing cold brew in bigger bottles now. And you can order all their products online, free delivery for orders over $25. But what they have on their online platform is being able to order for healthcare workers throughout the state, and they're delivering products. So you from home can order some coffee goods that'll be delivered to all those frontline folks. Another great example of that is Invoke Yoga, and several other yoga studios throughout the state are offering free yoga classes and memberships for all of our healthcare workers. It's a mental health challenge right now that's also going on, so it's a great resource for those businesses.
Great statewide perspective, as always, Brittany. Hey, do you have that from West Fork Whiskey? Was there a bottle you had there?
Oh, yes.
Can you show it? I don't know if we got it up. There it is, right there. We didn't get it up at the beginning of this segment. It's very cool. I wanted to make sure folks saw that. Brittany, great perspective as always. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Gary.
Okay. Well, up next, a huge challenge for low-income families in Indianapolis and elsewhere trying to find the best school for their kids. How to navigate through the increasing number of choices. In our Eye on Education segment, we'll see how Enroll Indy is attempting to help. Well, finding the best school match to a child's long-term goals in the workforce can be difficult for many families, especially those who face challenging economic situations. Enter Enroll Indy. It's an organization focused on streamlining the school enrollment process. Its mission to help families choose schools that best fit their child's needs. Enroll Indy Executive Director Bill Murphy joins us now via Skype to explain. And Bill, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Enroll Indy launched in 2016, has had an amazing impact in these 3 or 4 years. But tee up, if you will, the opportunity here or the challenge facing parents where they are those who are historically disenfranchised or people of any socioeconomic class, if you will. What's the challenge that Enroll Indy really addresses?
Sure. You know, I actually am the second executive director for Enroll Indy, so I moved here this year and one of my very first things I had to do was go through the school choice system myself for my own child. And as someone who is a lifelong educator, former deputy superintendent, former school principal, former special educator, I'm pretty well versed in how to navigate a school system and figure out the best thing for my children or parents who are having children enter a choice system for the first time, or even folks who are just struggling day to day with whatever life is throwing at them. It is hard to figure out what are my options, what options am I entitled to, how can I exercise those choices, and how do I find the best fit for my child. And so Enroll Indy works really closely with Indianapolis Public Schools, but also with all of the charter schools and magnet schools in Marion County that are part of IPS or are chartered by the mayor's office or the state charter school board, to make sure that families really have the best possible understanding of how to exercise those choices, and to make sure that seats at high quality schools are equitably accessed by folks from all walks of life.
And if you look at the numbers, kind of the proof is in the pudding in terms of the success of Enroll Indy. You received over 5,000 applications in round one. 89%, almost 90% of families received a match. That's some pretty good results.
Yes, sir. And actually for high school, where the choice becomes even more crucial, because if you're a student in IPS, all high schools are open to you. And so you have your choice of all of the IPS high schools and all of the charter schools. It is especially important that parents and students understand what they're signing up for their 9th to 12th grade education. For those grades, we actually have a 100% match rate. We heavily target kids who are in the transitional grades, 8th graders rising into 9th grade, kindergartners rising into first, or pre-kindergartners rising into kinder, to make sure that at those kind of key junctures in a kid's life, their parents understand what all the options are in front of them. Historically, it was a lot about knowing somebody that knew the right process. And we have enrollment guides that will just sit down with a parent for as long as it takes to help them understand how to get their child into a magnet school, how to choose a charter school, how to engage in any choice that they want to within IPS or the charter schools.
Only have about 30 seconds left, Bill, but this kind of service in this alignment, I'm sure has always been important, but it seems to me that it's even more important now with the needs in the workforce to really get these students on a path that is really aligned with what they want to do and then aligned with the needs ultimately of the workforce.
Absolutely, without question. And I think the thing we're facing right now with so many parents living at home with their kids under various degrees of quarantine is making sure that folks know that April 30th deadline is still in play. And we want to make sure folks are getting in touch and getting the support they need to complete applications for their school choices.
All right, Bill Griffith, thanks very much. Great perspective, great work at Enroll Indy. Again, April 30, that important deadline for parents as well. Bill Murphy, thank you very much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, this week, a sure sign of spring. The first ocean-going vessel on southern Lake Michigan arrived. It means ice is cleared in northern regions of the lake as well as on the St. Lawrence Seaway. The Ports of Indiana says the 466-foot cargo carrier arrived early this week in northwest Indiana. The ship, which sails under the Netherlands flag, had a 5-day-long voyage through the Seaway to the deepwater port at the Port of Indiana Burns Harbor. It was loaded with some 1,600 tons of wind turbine parts, which were produced in Spain. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Well, remember, you are not alone during this crisis. The hashtag #InThisTogether social distancing campaign, it aims to keep Hoosiers healthy and return Indiana to normal social interactions and business operations. The campaign, created by Governor Holcomb and Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogshead and others, coalition of statewide business and community leaders, including Eli Lilly and Company, to help flatten the curve. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Stay safe, stay positive, Indiana.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.